Everybody, it's Steve the Wellness Warrior. Today, we're going to talk about one of my, I guess, we're going to talk about two things today. One is my absolute favorite topic, and the other one is one of my not so favorite topics. But they're super important. So here we go. So monitoring stress and living happy. All right, so a lot of people get balled up in this whole big stress thing. It's was just talking to somebody about this not too long ago. And I guess the yang of the yin of stress would be living happy. So all right, so just the fine print as usual first. This is for educational and informational and coaching purposes only. Do not substitute anything that you hear today or in any of the presentations for the advice of a medical professional or a mental health provider, so whoever that may be. And if you want to talk more about your health and wellness, send me a message and we can go ahead and do that. All right, as here I am. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I'm a race director. I direct an obstacle course race. I'm a level 2 health coach, a bird watcher. We'll talk about that later in the show. And as usual, I'm all about health and happiness, and we'll talk more about happiness today. All right, so what is stress? And I'm sure you've heard of the placebo effect, but there's also a nocebo effect. So what is stress? Stress is being extra vigilant. That could also be the fight or flight response. It is a natural process, and it's also a natural process. In the last 200 years or so, we've gotten a lot more stressful. In a survival type situation, you obviously need to act before something bad happens. But we're not generally in a survival type situation very often. But a lot of times we treat our body like we're in a survival type situation. So those symptoms can be, sweating, heart palpitations, your muscles tensing up, having really tense shoulders. Your senses are heightened, so you can be more aware of your surroundings and stuff like that. But the big problem, we'll talk about this more a little bit later, is when you're stressed all the time instead of just for a short period of time, then your immune system either temporarily or fully shuts off, because that energy that you need to have those heightened awarenesses has got to come from somewhere, and it doesn't go to the places that you need energy for that short period of time. But if our stress turns into long-term stress, then that's where really we get some issues, and we'll talk more about that later. All right, so the placebo effect is thinking that you're getting treated basically, and you're not. So that's like when they give, when they're doing a study and they give people just pills with nothing in them instead of like pills with the medicine in. So generally, as a matter of fact, the placebo effect is a definite real thing. And even people that get fake medicine, their symptoms tend to improve as well. And in my mind, that's even better, because then you don't have any of the side effects of the medicine. All right, so the nocebo effect is the other thing, and that's when we have an expectation of pain, or we have an expectation that negative things are going to happen, or whatever treatment we're going to get is going to hurt us. even when it doesn't really do anything. And this is a real thing too. And even if these people are not given a medicine, but they perceive as that medicine having a negative effect, then their health will also suffer negatively. So I didn't think I was going to be talking about this, but your brain is very powerful and it has the ability to make you healthier or make you unhealthier a lot of times, just based on how you perceive things or how your mind funnels things into a positive area or into a negative area. And the problem in this country is that 70% of people in this country are in that survival mode instead of that happy, thriving mode. So that's a pretty scary statistic if you think about it. All right, so a little sciencey stuff before we get into it. This didn't really come over too well. This is from National Coalition of Massage Therapists. But anyway, we have two different nervous systems in the autonomic nervous systems. One's called the parasympathetic and one's called the sympathetic. As you can see in this diagram, both of those nervous systems affect the same organs. But if we look at the lungs, all right, parasympathetic is going to constrict the airways. Sympathetic nervous system is going to relax the airways so we can get more air. Parasympathetic is going to slow your heartbeat down. All right, that's the rest and digest nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is going to increase the heart rate. Right, parasympathetic, our pupils contract. Sympathetic nervous systems, our pupils dilate. All right, so I don't know about you, but I'd rather be in the parasympathetic side than the sympathetic side, and we switch back and forth depending on what happens to us. So spending more time in this rest and digest area is definitely more advantageous than, you know, being in the fight or flight, constantly vigilant about everything. All right. So I can go on and on about that, but I'll leave it be for now. All right. So some people group stress into 3 different types: physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. So physical stress is when you experience a trauma or an accident, like something physically happens, or even if you see something happen that's traumatic, then you could have those PTS symptoms, post-traumatic symptoms, or post-traumatic stress symptoms from that event. Chemical stress is another one. So, you know, think about the flu is a chemical stress, you know, toxins in our food. Just our food can be a chemical stress. Bacteria, heavy metals, all these things can function as stress. Parabens that you may have in lotion that you spread on your skin can get absorbed in, and that can be a chemical stress. So these chemical stress, and you know, there's 80,000 new chemicals that weren't here 150 years ago that are man-made that we really don't know what they do. You might know one thing they do, not all the things that they do. And then there's emotional stress. You know, traffic jams are an example of emotional stress that some people have. Having the tragedy in the family could be an emotional stress as well as a trauma if it was a traumatic case. You know, arguments can be a type of emotional stress as well. So they can come from a wide variety of different places and kinds of things. All right. Stress can put us into an alternative reality, which is a more incoherent state, more unfocused state. And we can, I feel that we can be more easily influenced that way as well. All right, so what are some of these stressors? So some food is stress. White flour is definitely stress. It's quickly absorbed, releasing insulin, and that insulin raises sugar, cortisol, because it's a stressful event, and that is a food stressor. Processed meat is another one. There's chemicals in processed meat that our body is not adapted for. Sugar, like straight up sugar, not only does that provide that spike in insulin response, but sugar can also help release cortisol, and cortisol can release more sugar. So this is kind of a cycle that happens, and that can make you feel more stressed and anxious. Sugar is really viewed as a toxin in the body. At any one time, your body can only really hold 5 grams of sugar in the bloodstream. All the rest is kind of stowed away in different places. It's definitely needed to make energy, but if we have too much in the blood, then we can start hedging our way towards, disease like diabetes, and some other chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease. Caffeine's another one that could be a food stress for some people. That can actually increase your cortisol as well. Poor sleep is definitely a stressor. All right, we should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night at least. A good tracking tool will give you a good indication of where you sit on that as far as how much you actually get. Low sunlight could be a stressor because that is a natural way to make vitamin D in your body. Vitamin D supplements are good, but it doesn't necessarily do the same thing as when your body naturally makes it. And we're naturally designed to make our own if we get enough sunlight. Drugs and alcohol could be stressors. Pesticides that come packaged in forms of sugar, white flour, a lot of fruits and vegetables. You can find out more about that with EWG.org. They have a 30 dozen list that lists all of the fruits and vegetables that have the most amount of pesticides and different kinds of pesticides on them. So emotional stress, being overly worried about things. Watching negative news too much is a massive emotional stressor, whether you think it is or not. So it's important to be able to limit those things. So, and those emotional stressors can make you angry, can make you guilty, they can make you sad, they can make you fearful. So those are all types of stressors. Exercise can be a good or a bad stress as well. So that's really, for another day. I'm going to briefly touch on it next, but exercise as a stressor is another whole big thing. All right, so there's 2 different types of stressors. There's short-term stressors and long-term stressors. So short-term stretchers, I like it, can alter homeostasis in a good way. So short-term stressors, all-out exercise for a few seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, good stressor. You're not killing yourself, but you're still getting that, elevated heart rate and stuff. Think about a zebra. All right, when it's chased by a lion, its heart rate goes up, it runs like mad, it has to try to escape. But 30 minutes later, if the lion catches something or they decide they lose interest, then the zebra's back to normal. All right, it's not carrying around that stress all day. All right, we tend to carry around our stress all day. All right, we're not designed for these long-term stressors. So when I say mobilizing energy, when you're stressed, your body's got to mobilize energy so you can be hypervigilant, so you can be super tense. So if you're using energy for being hypervigilant and tensed up and really being aware, super aware of your surroundings, heightening your senses, then that energy is being taken away from somewhere else that can do something good, like help you digest your food, help disseminate the nutrients around your body, help your, heart transport oxygen and carbon dioxide around your body. All right. So you only have a certain amount of energy. So when you're super stressed and have especially long-term stressors, then that energy gets pulled away from there. Then it can start compromising your immune system. There's been studies that looked at these long-term stressors, and those people that have long-term, that hold on to their stress, have higher rates of cancer, higher rates of MS, higher rates of lupus, higher rates of food sensitivities, and the list can go on and on. These are just a few of them. So, and then when all that energy is being used somewhere else, then the one thing that gets compromised is your immune system, because your body's putting all that energy towards being hypervigilant and not so much into that hard work of, fighting off invaders in your body. So short-term stressors are good because they can help the body adapt so you can handle those short-term stressors, but the long-term stressors really are a drain on our body. It can lead to some really bad results. So how do we manage stress? One way to manage stress is to consume antioxidant-rich food like berries. Berries are high in antioxidants. Another one is spices and herbs. If you use those in cooking, those are very, very high in antioxidants. Anytime you can get any of those in there is good. Manage your expectations of yourself and what others think you can do is one way that you can manage stress. Right? So pull them back. You don't need to be Superman or Superwoman for everything. Just let it go. Know what your limits are and kind of meet those limits. Consuming bad fats is a way that we can add stress. So if we consume beneficial fats like omega-3 fatty acids are one of those, and that can help reduce inflammation and help us get into that, rest and relax spot and manage our stress. Unhook from life. All right, so unplug. Take some time every day to not be on a technological device. I know here we are on a technological device, talking about technological devices, but unplugging and not looking at your cell phone all the time or TV or whatever, and reading a book or taking a hike, or just meditating are all good things to help manage stress. Daily exercise, reasonable exercise is a great way to reduce stress. So think about those things. Don't forget to breathe. Deep breathing is another way to reduce stress. Practicing gratitude, practicing self-care. Learning to love being in existence is another way to help manage stress. So a 10-minute daily meditation can do that too. There's some amazing studies of how meditation and being mindful really help all aspects of your life, especially managing stress. So here's some tips for managing stress. So when you do some of these things, you're slowing down your brain's activity, all right? You're ratcheting it down a little bit so your brain's not going blah, 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 so you kind of smoothing it out. Your brain waves. So nasal breathing while you're walking in the sunshine is a great way for you to manage your stress, bring your heart rate down. Get your vitamin D while you're out there. It's kind of like the feel-good vitamin, right? Frequent movement. The longer you stay put, the more you grow roots into the chair and the less you want to move. Foam rolling is another really good one that can release tension. All right, if you hold tension in your legs or your back, foam rolling can really help with that. Doing hot and cold contrast is a good way to for stress management. Sweating is another one. And then, like I said, meditation is really good for managing stress. And I just read a book. I just finished a book a couple days ago that talked about, we can't avoid having events happen to us, but we really can avoid, or we can really choose how we react to those particular events. We can decide to hold on to those events and ruminate over those, or we can let those events come in, spend a minute with us, and then let them go. All right. Those people that can let things go are so much more healthier. And if you haven't done it, it is very hard to do. And it takes some practice. All right, so what is the opposite of stress? Da-da-da, happiness. So how can we lower stress and be happy? That's what we're going to talk about for the second half. As it turns out, our attitude plays a big role in this, really big role. So we'll break it down into two parts: your attitude in uncertain times and habits of happy people. So what do happy people do more often than people that aren't as happy, or people that are stressed? All right, one thing that people that are happy and well-adjusted are, they're able to hold it together. So their attitude, and there's whole, I think you can even get a degree in happiness, which sounds really nice. So, even if your attitude's slightly better, you're going to feel better. Being okay without normal, right? A lot of people have been super stressed the last 2 years, all right? Because we've been, locked away. We're finally starting to open up again. But, they say it's a new normal. It's just different. So being okay with that is one way that you can pull it together, have a better attitude. Gratitude is another very, very powerful practice that helps people have a more positive attitude. Empty your brain. Having a gratitude journal, or just a journal in general. There's been studies where if you just write stuff down that's bothering you, that gets it off your chest and off your mind enough so you can sleep better at night, so you can go through your day better. So emptying those negative thoughts out, or just thoughts in general, is really good to have a more positive attitude. Making the most of situations. A lot of people sat home during this whole pandemic, but some people took classes and went to Zoom meetings and, still met with their church on Zoom, or, still met with people with phone calls. All right. I think phone calls and writing letters is two things that we kind of lost touch of for a lot of people, because we tend to just send messages or send an email, and they're not as personal. So this is one of my favorite, to laugh at yourself and to be self-entertaining. So I always said, if you're self-entertaining, you can pretty much make it through anything, right? Love that one. So spend more time outside. And again, there's a lot of studies where just being outside can help you keep it together, help you be happier. So do those things. Most of those things don't even cost any money to do, and they take so little time. So do them. All right. Happy people practice these things. Good thing there's not two more P's in that sentence. I would have really messed it up, but I did a fine job anyway. So what do happy people do? Happy people are very kind. All right. They're very forgiving. All right. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgetting means to, like I said before, let that energy come in and let it pass. All right. We never know what other people are going through at any particular time. So, maybe they're having a bad day and we just can't let ourselves be bothered by, don't let somebody's bad day ruin yours. Be gracious. All right. Say thank you. I know some people that don't say that very often, but somebody once said, saying thank you goes a long way. All right. Being generous. So that doesn't necessarily always mean with money. It could be with time. It could be with thoughts. I think thinking about people and letting them know that they're thought about is a very generous activity in a weird sort of way. So be patient. All right. Happy people practice patience. And then happy people also, practice being gracious and gratitude, whether it's writing it down or saying it to somebody. But these are definitely the practices that people that are happy do consistently. Oh, got my favorite. Be curious and open-minded. That's a really good one. If you're always curious about something, you're open-minded to hear different views, you're going to be happier. All right. So what I would like you to do is take one thing from this presentation and incorporate it this week. All right. So it's kind of like a self-care thing, de-stress thing. All right. Believe in the future and not the past. All right. We can't do anything about what happened before, but we can make our own path going forward. And think about, do you want to live in survival, in that survival animal state, or the growth and repair state? Growth doesn't mean out, doesn't mean up, just means, in here, and the growth in your body to, make the building blocks for life. We don't want to derail any of that stuff. So think about one of those things that was mentioned in this presentation and really go for it this week and see how it changes things. Maybe it won't change anything. You might need to do something else. That's fine too. Our whole life's an experiment at once, so use it. All right, so just as a summary, we talked about all the different types of stress, how we can transition that stress, or the two different types of stress being short-term stress and long-term stress, and happiness. How can we make ourselves happy? How can we make the people around us happier? And one thing I did forget to mention is that happy people tend to live healthier lives and longer lives. So if you want to live longer and healthier, have a more positive attitude towards everything. All right. Thanks for joining me. This is Steve, the Wellness Warrior. You can find me at thewellnesswarrior.coach. I do my best work when I'm working one-on-one with clients to help them reach their health and wellness needs and goals. All right. Thanks for showing up. See you soon.